So good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Chunfat. I'm with Work Life Hawaii, and I am a licensed mental health counselor and the clinical supervisor here at Work Life Hawaii. I am here with my colleague, Claire Nakasui, and I am here to orient you to the supervisors' tools and ways to use your EAP, Employee Assistance Program, with us. So we'll get started. A little bit about our background. So Work Life Hawaii, we are a division of Child and Family Services, which is a private nonprofit organization. So that allows Work Life Hawaii to tap into over 50 programs statewide that CFS, Child and Family Services, run. So that gives us an even wider breadth of services to offer our employees. Work Life is staffed by both employees, staff counselors, such as Claire, she's on staff, and independent contractors. So that allows us to have coverage statewide. We have counselors on all islands, and they are in all areas. So when we go back to in person, it is highly likely that you will have a counselor available in your area that will be able to serve you. So currently we are serving 95 private and public sectors statewide. So these are contracts that we have with employers, and that is how we offer our services. It is through contracts. We are also nationally accredited by the Council on Accreditation, COA. So what this means is that not all EAP companies are accredited, but we do go that extra step, and they come in and make sure that we are compliant with industry standards. So this happens every 3 years, this being an accreditation year. So the overarching goal for an EAP in general is twofold. The services that we offer to employees are to help them to improve not only their professional performance, but also their personal lives, because they are interconnected. So if something is off at home and it continues or it's not addressed, it is more than likely that you will start to see performance issues in the workplace. And by improving relationships both at work and at home, this helps the employer to create a more well-balanced and productive work group. So we help the employees with personal employment issues, health issues. We can offer stress management tools, strategizing plans that can help them to obtain their goals of healthy and productive lives. We have, I'll go into a wide variety of different areas that we're able to help both employees and employers with. And last thing for the employees is to maximize their individual well-being, which again will transfer into the workplace. From an employer standpoint, maintaining that workforce, that productive and healthy workforce, really helps the company to move forward. It reduces turnover, because when people are feeling that they're not at their best, or there are issues that they choose not to address or bring to the attention of their supervisors, what will happen is they'll most likely start isolating, calling in sick, and eventually possibly even disengaging or separating from the company. Using the EAP also helps to reduce risk and liability. So for instance, if there is an employee that has been exhibiting behaviors that are not consistent with policies and procedures, and the employer or the supervisor has already gone through the different protocols and the behavior continues, if it's not addressed, that actually does or could open up the workplace to risk or liability in a variety of different ways. having the employee come to EAP, and I'll explain that process where you can do a formal referral. That helps the employer to connect the dots and to confirm that they did connect with EAP. So steps were taken above and beyond the workplace to help address these factors. And also, of course, the overreaching goal for that is to maximize the organization performance and performance of the individuals so that together, as a whole, they move it forward towards the goal of accomplishing a healthier and happier workplace. So this it's very it's very general, but I will break it down for you so you can see how the EAP services can benefit you not just individually, but as a manager or supervisor. So right now with COVID, we were we were reluctantly, as mental health people, we're not very accustomed to technology and was very reluctant to use Zoom. However, one of the positives of the pandemic is that we were forced to start utilizing telehealth, which opened up a great opportunity for us and our participants that we serve because it gives us greater access. So that is a service we are going to keep. So what we did was we bought 3 private Zoom accounts, which are HIPAA compliant. So they are they're up to standards, so it's completely confidential. The employees are emailed when they call in to make an appointment. We will set them up with a Zoom appointment right now because we are not offering in person temporarily, and we'll see how this goes. And eventually we will go back to in person as well. Once this appointment is set up, they will be sent a Zoom link. And as long as they have a device with a camera and they're in the privacy of their own homes, they're somewhere that's safe and that they can speak to us freely, they just click on the link. So it's extremely helpful for both sides to be able to connect in this way. And if they don't have that kind of technology where they have a camera available, for instance, we can do a phone. And this always comes in handy most times for kapuna who are not very tech savvy or have issues with the cameras and the computers. So I'm sorry, this thing is cutting away. So we reserve the right to determine what is most clinically appropriate for the situation. So what that means is that if we have someone say that might be suicidal or severely depressed and at risk of self-harm, we may ask that person and make that exception and do it in person because not always is telehealth going to be appropriate. So that's where we'll make that decision when we meet with or speak with the employee or the participant to determine if telehealth services will be adequate. So that's the only exception. Otherwise, it works great. People love it. And we're, like I said, able to reach far more people than we're able to in person. So breaking down our services, employee counseling, that includes individuals or their family members who each get 4 visits per contract year. Contract year is September 1 through August 31st. Each employee gets 4 sessions and each household member also gets 4 sessions free of charge to use during this period of time, this contract year. I spoke about formal supervisory referrals. So this is typically referred to as an FSR. And what this is it's a formal referral made by a manager or supervisor for an employee that has been exhibiting behaviors that have not improved after these steps have been taken according to policies and procedures. And it might even go far beyond the scope of the employment, the contributing factors. So, for instance, there may be an employee who has consistently been late or not showing up for work over a period of a few months. And it's gotten to the point where it's not only excessive, but the employee is also not calling in. And so the employer, the manager, has verbally warned the employee. Then they have written the employee up and the behavior still continue. And maybe the employee will disclose that there are some personal issues going on in the home that's preventing them from coming to work. Once the manager has exhausted all of their options, you can do a formal referral. And what that will be is that is a form that WorkLife Hawaii provides. And it has three parts to it. So the manager would state what the issue is. Employee has had excessive absences. What would you like? So it's what is the problem? What have you done to to resolve this issue? And you could say that we've gone through these three tiers. The the behaviors are continuing. And the third section is what would you like to see happen? We would like the employee to be more responsible and show up to work on time. So those three parts are written down. It's used as a script for the manager to meet with the employee. It is recommended that the employee be spoken to in a private area and this be presented in a positive and not a punitive manner. So this is actually a support for managers and the employees as well. This is an added layer of support for the industry. The manager will say, we have brought this to your attention. We've done what we could, and we feel that it would be in your best interest as you're a valued participant in our company and a valued employee. We really want to be able to help you. And we've exhausted our options, and we'd like you to connect with work life so that you can speak to someone and speak freely, and maybe they'll be able to help you move forward with a plan. So at that point, the employee acknowledges that they were spoken to regarding this formal referral and they sign the form. The manager then takes that form and faxes or emails it to WorkLife Hawaii. And the employee has 10 days from the date the referral is received from WorkLife Hawaii to call us. When the employee calls to make the appointment, the counselor that's assigned to that employee will call the manager that's referring this employee and let them know, hi, my name is Lisa. I'm the counselor that's been assigned to this employee, and I wanted to touch base with you. I read the FSR, wanted to know if there's any additional information that you'd like to add. Once the employee comes in for the session, the confidentiality starts and the counselor will need to obtain a release to be able to follow up with the manager. There are three options on the formal referral. The formal referral has an option to request attendance, recommendations, and progress. So typically we ask the supervisor to just go ahead and check all three because there might be one of those that we'd like to confer with you on. So when the employee comes in, I would say 9 times out of 10, they'll sign the release to allow the counselor to speak to the supervisor regarding anything that's related to work. So nothing personal, there's no name, there's no personal information that was disclosed during the session that will be disclosed to the supervisor. If the employee does not call, then after the 10 days has passed, WorkLife will call the supervisor and let the supervisor know that we have not received a call from the employee. After the sessions are completed, the counselor will then call the supervisor to let them know where we've completed services, we're going to be closing our file. Please let us know if anything changes or if you need further assistance. So we'll always loop the supervisor in so they know from start to finish where they are in the process. Are there any questions on supervisory referrals? Okay, so we're going to move on. So one last thing on supervisory referrals, that would be part of the 4 sessions that the employee has available to them. So they would be using for that initial visit is going to be one of their 4 sessions. Okay, so management consultations. Management, yes.
I have a question. So the FSR, the form, is it available on the website, or how does a manager or supervisor obtain that referral form?
Okay, so they can call us, or what I can do is I can send that to you, Tracy, and then you can disseminate that to, it's fillable now. So again, technology. So I can send it to you and you can get it out to the supervisors. Or like I said, they can call us and we can email them the form.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So management consultations, these are on-site. So what that means is, say there's an incident that occurs at the branch, for instance, a robbery. Those have been very common. So you want to have a meeting with the managers to strategize how can we formulate a plan for our employees. Maybe you had somebody come in and do a critical incident that I'll talk about, but there are some residual behaviors or issues, and you want to have a meeting with the managers with an EAP counselor there. And we've done this supervisor consultations on site. We will go to your site and meet with your managers. This is shared. So all the participating credit unions share in 4 hours for the on site. Anything after that, so if say, a bunch of credit unions participated in this for the calendar, the contract year, and someone else wants to use this service, they want us to come on site and the shared hours are used, there would be an additional rate for that particular management consultation, and that would be on site. If a manager would like to call us to discuss an issue, and we've had managers call and say, for that very reason, excessive absences, it's gotten to this point, what should I do? Those are unlimited. So all managers can call us for whatever reason, and there's no limit on that amount. And that is for all participating credit unions. They are able to call us on the phone and speak to us unlimited. So sometimes it's just a simple question, and that's fine, and you can call us. Many times it might be, hey, I want to do a formal referral, but I forgot how to do it. Could you walk me through it? And we'll definitely be able to do that as well. So that's management consultation services. Now, substance abuse services. This is whether an employee comes to you and self-discloses, or maybe there's reasonable suspicion, or you do testing. Whatever the case, if the manager or if the manager sends the employee to us, it would follow under the formal supervisory referral, and we would follow that protocol when we're doing a substance abuse. If the employer comes to us and discloses in session that they are using substances and the employer doesn't know, we will definitely have a conversation with that employee to get a release, to let the employer know, so that the employee will be able to go to treatment. So what we do with substance abuse cases is they will come in and we will do a comprehensive assessment on where they're at and what level of care they'll need to address their substance use. We'll make a referral. Typically, it could be anything from education to detox. and going from that level detox all the way through, which could run anywhere up to a year, depending on how the employee does. But it really helps for them to allow us to work with their employer so that the employer is at least kept abreast of what the progress is. So I have had a client come to me and he was no call, no show, and he was a landscaper, and he came in on his own a week after no call, no show. And he disclosed that he had been engaged in substance use heavily for the last week, which was preventing him from showing up to work. So I called a detox center because he was actively using, and they told me that they could take him in, and this was prior to COVID. They could take him in 2 hours if he showed up. Now I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's really going to be a long shot. I had to send him home to get his clothes and then go to that facility. And I told him, you call me when you get there, and you have the facility call me to validate that you did make it there, and they can confirm that. Lo and behold, he didn't call that night, but they called the next day and said he's here, and he came yesterday and he's participating. And that was one of the few but really rewarding success stories, because he continued from that initial level detox all the way through and completed the treatment. A year later, I was in constant contact with his employer, who kept his job open, and he is currently back at work. So it's not always that simple, but we will work with the employee and the employers to make sure that they're getting the services they need. Any questions on substance abuse? Okay, so critical incident stress management. Now, this is what happens when there's a traumatic event, especially in the workplace. For instance, the robbery that I had mentioned, or there is a death of a coworker, and that's been happening quite a bit with COVID, and the whole work team, the whole branch is affected. And this is what we offer as a service as well, where we can come down to the branch. I've gone down to branches to do debriefing with the employees that were directly involved, and sometimes two groups debriefing the employees that were there but not physically in that space. Now, this is one of the shared hours. There's up to 6 hours that the credit unions can share in this. So what we will typically do is, when we get a call, we'll get all the details and we'll ask them to contact Tracy, so she's tracking how many hours are being used, so she'll be able to let that employee of that credit union know how many hours are available to be used. So typically we will get 2 counselors, and we will come on site and we will do a debriefing session with them. And if need be, we'll recommend that those affected employees do follow up with individual sessions, depending on what the situation is. Any questions on critical incidents? Okay, moving on to training. Training services, again, training completely different from orientation. So training, we have a training menu on our website that lists all of the different trainings we offer. That is shared. Those are shared hours. Our trainings typically last at least an hour, and there are 4 shared hours for all the branches annually for whoever is participating in the credit union. Again, anything outside of that would be billed to the credit union directly, and it would be at an additional hourly rate. Any questions on training? Okay, great. EAP planning and development services. That's where the orientations come in. Each participating credit union has one employee orientation and one supervisor orientation per branch allowed per contract year. So employee orientations are 30 minutes in length, and supervisor orientations are typically an hour to an hour and a half in length. And those are allowed for each branch, each participating credit union at no charge that's included in the contract. They are also getting monthly newsletters. The newsletters go out the first week of each month, and there is a supervisor newsletter and an employee newsletter. And we also offer the links for those newsletters so that the employers are able to forward links to their employees and supervisors, and they can access it that way or through email or print. But those are emailed to the Credit Union League to be shared amongst the participants.
Lisa, I have a question.
Please.
For when you say per branch, is back office considered a branch?
What is back office?
Lisa, what is back office?
So some of our employees are not all our employees are in a branch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There are buildings that have clusters of employees.
Yes, yes. So for me, layman's terms, a branch is, okay, clusters of employees. So that would count, yes.
Like a location.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so the Credit Union League will also get a quarterly utilization report, which will show you, well, which includes the number of employees that have utilized services and what areas of services were used, such as grief or relationship or individual counseling, but no names, no identifying information. This is just so that they can get a sense of how much use is going on per quarter. There are also benefits fairs, and benefits fairs, I don't know if, I think I have done some benefits fairs. So again, those are shared benefits that the branches can have a counselor come in and represent the Work Life Hawaii, and they usually will have other participants such as the medical providers, the insurance providers, and they all present their services in a short amount of time, and then the employees have the opportunity to come around and ask questions, and we bring them our flyers and usually some swag. I don't know if you've had any of those in the past, but the benefits fairs, there's up to 6 hours for that. So that's again shared, but if a branch or one of the participating credit unions want to have a benefits fair, that would come out of that 6 that's allotted. Any questions? Excuse me. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our recent addition, enhanced services. So these are financial and legal services that we now offer through a third party that we have contracted with to be able to offer these services to our customers. So financial consultations. The way all of these work is that, say you need financial or legal consultations, you would call Work Life Hawaii, schedule a session, come in and meet with the counselor, either by Zoom or if it's in person. And the counselor will discuss with you what the situation is. The purpose of that is to hone in on what the core issue is, so that when we make the call to get the referral, you can utilize that 30 minutes on the phone, really just discussing what the issue is and not having to um, differentiate where the actual issue is. So the counselor will help the employee work through and get to the crux of it. And then they'll call. So our financial is located on the mainland. So they will call with the employee there with the counselor, and then the employee is able to talk to the financial advisor over the phone. So these appointments generally have to be made in the morning because they're in California, so they by 2 o'clock they're closed. So each um, each employee will get 30 minutes per issue. So not to be confused with their sessions. This is 30 minutes of financial consultation per issue. And this is by phone only. Tax consultation, again, 30 minutes, same situation. You come in, we isolate the problem or the issue, and then we call. Once you refer to someone to do these services and say you like them, if you want to go with them to do your tax preparations, then any services that they render will be at a 25% discounted rate. Legal consultations, it's either a 30-minute in office with the lawyer or a telephone consultation. Those are 30 minutes. This works a little differently where we can either make the call while the employee is in session, or if we're on Zoom, what we do is we go through the same process to find out what the issue is. Say, for instance, someone calls in and says, my parents are getting older and with COVID, they're a little worried about their state and they want to put together a will and they want to get their affairs in order. So what we would do is we would take the employee's contact information, and then we would contact the CLC is the firm that we use. We will let them know that there is a request for legal referral, and they will contact the employee directly with the referral, the name and number of the lawyer. That employee can then choose to meet with the lawyer in person or by phone, and it is for 30 minutes. Again, if they choose to go with that attorney and use their services, they will get a 25% discount on their legal services rendered. There is one caveat to this, and that is that the legal matters cannot be work related for obvious reasons. For our mediation services, initial 30-minute in office or by phone, but we can connect you with a mediator and then they will take it from there and decide what's the best route to take. Again, any services that if you choose to go with who they're recommending, there is a 25% discount. We also have identity theft, and that is 60 minutes. So when you meet with the FRS, the fraud resolution specialist, you will have 60 minutes of consultation that is free of charge to address that issue. Okay, so again, the only caveat is that the disputes that are work related cannot be used, this service can't be used for that. Any questions? Okay, so let's move on to some common concerns that we've been seeing, especially during the pandemic. These are some things that we can help you and your employees with. So we'll start at the top with safety. So when the pandemic first happened, there was a lot of concern and anxiety around safety in the workplace, and a lot of unknown, which causes us to be probably not at our best. I mean, there's a lot of pressure and stress that went on and still goes on because it's learning to work from home, transitioning to having everyone in the same place, going on Zoom calls, learning technology, and safety for personal safety. You know, the virus was pretty rampant, and we didn't really know what was happening. So concerns for safety on a personal level. And then as we all started to trickle back to the office, there is that added concern. Even if we have the PPE and all of the tools available in the workplace by our employer, there's still that customer factor, the dealing with the public, and that has been something that we have been dealing with, and we have been seeing quite a few employees coming in to just vent and to voice their concerns of their family. Maybe they're at home working and their partner is going out into the workplace and they're concerned about them bringing the virus into the home. So these have been some of the more common issues we've been seeing regarding safety. Now we're starting to see more and more vaccination concerns coming in, and we'll be able to speak to those employees and again provide resources, information, and tools to help them navigate this uncertain time. As you can imagine, finances for a lot of people have been pretty rough, and we are not only able to offer the financial and legal services, we can also help them to do, for instance, a crisis budget, just a temporary paring down of things until we can get through the rough patches and perhaps they lost their jobs, helping them to prepare to re-enter the workforce or find different skills, different trainings, or basically there's been quite a few arguments between partners on household budgets. And so these are some of the things we have been dealing with, and we've been able to help them navigate that as well. Also, there's the stress that is connected to that permeates throughout the household and creates other issues. So finances have been a big one, family issues, not being able to see family members and maybe other family members not understanding why they're not coming, or family, this can take on all different forms. So a lot of what was happening initially is that everybody's home together, and we weren't used to that. Having to work from home, be on a meeting, having to do the online school, and many parents were having a lot of difficulty with that, trying to navigate that online schooling. Now that that's over, I mean, we worked through that. We got them to a place where they could compartmentalize in the home. And now there is obviously new concerns with kids going to school and parents' fear with that. And again, so many different things, family members who are passing due to COVID or other grief and loss issues that have been coming up frequently. And also for grief and loss, it doesn't necessarily have to mean death at this point. Grief and loss of the lifestyles that we knew prior to the pandemic. And having had this pandemic draw on for so long, people are fatigued, not just Zoom fatigue. They are really starting to lose hope and sometimes feeling helpless and at a stuck point almost for some. So these are some real concerns. And again, they do spill over into the workplace, into family life, and affect us at all different levels. Work-life balance is one of the things that we strive for, and we really try to get our employees to create plans that can lead to work-life balance. Being able to compartmentalize, like I mentioned, with the family, which means that when you leave work at work, because many of our employees are staying at work till way later than they should, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then coming back to work at 4 a.m. And they may feel that I have the time, I don't have to drop my kids off at school, but what's happening is they're getting burnt out. and they're not realizing that because it's creeping up so slowly. And having a session with them and explaining to them how that not only impacts their personal health, but their family's health, their kids. They're not seeing their parent, their spouses feeling like they're having to hold down the fort on their own. It starts to look like they're escaping. So when they really sit down and look at all of this on paper, we sometimes map it out for them. And then they start to realize, whoa, okay, I didn't even see this coming. So we work with them to not only address some scaling back on some of the hours so that they can be more productive. Because if you're working 12 hours, how productive are you if you have lack of sleep, you're not properly nourished, you're dehydrated, versus getting 8 hours of sleep, coming into the office and being fully prepared and feeling like, okay, I'm in my flow. I can be mindful of what I'm doing, and I can be much more productive. So these are some of the things that we have been addressing with work-life balance. Resources, we can get you resources that are either through CFS. We have been very creative in finding resources for people. Some of our substance abuse people that have come in, we have actually sent them to the mainland for treatment, for in residential treatment, and it's been successful. But we will also provide the employee with long-term resources should that be warranted. So after the employee comes in, they've utilized all 4 sessions, it's determined that they would benefit from longer-term services, meaning anything from maintenance once a month to regularly scheduled sessions. We will find a provider that takes their private medical insurance, and we can also do a warm transfer for them, which means that we'll get a release, we'll call the provider and let them know, I have a client, I'd like to refer to you. This is what the issues are, and this is what we've covered, and the employee is able to just pick up with the new provider, and it's a seamless transfer. Or we'll give them a list of vetted resources that they can use. Aside from the legal and financial, there's a multitude of other resources we can provide. I had a client who went to HR. She had a debilitating disease, and it was not a normal disease. So it started with her muscles, but it progressed to her brain. So she worked in an engineering department as clerical, and she was going into work because that's what she knew she was. That was her purpose. And she knew that she was declining in health, but she thought she could handle it. She was getting into minor fender benders on her way to work. She was falling in the office, and HR had told her, maybe you might want to think about early retirement. And she thought that would be the end of her, that they're putting her out to pasture. So HR had given her all of the resources they had as far as setting up TDI and all of these different aspects of her phasing out, and they referred her to work life. So what we did, and she thought that we were an extension of HR, meaning that I was going to help her with retirement planning, and which we can, but on the psycho emotional side, so not the actual retirement planning. But I talked to her about the effects of her disease and how she needed to connect with a psychologist because she was only seeing her PCP, and she was an avid tennis player, and because she couldn't play tennis, she was staying home, she was isolating. She was in denial that her condition was worsening, and her husband was trying to hold it all together. So now that she's not seeing her friends at the tennis court, she's depressed. She isn't even talking to her husband. So what we ended up doing was connecting her with a psychologist, connecting her with I think I sent her to the Alzheimer's society, and where they had a lot of resources for her. Even though she didn't have Alzheimer's, it was a lot of the same symptoms. So we also connected her back with her tennis group, because she thought because she couldn't play, she couldn't go. And they would call and check in on her, but because she was so embarrassed that she wasn't her usual self, she didn't want to really talk to them and engage. But what she realized is, I don't have to play, but I can go to the courts and I can support them, and we can still socialize like we used to. I'm just not playing. So she was able to, and she also got legal resources so that she could set up her estate. So I think she ended up retiring early, which was great because she was getting hurt. So she could be in the comfort of her own home and really enjoy her life for the majority of what she has left. So she was really happy, and she had not thought of some of these things. So the resources and the counseling together really helped put her on the right path. Any questions?
Lisa, what about if an employee is terminated, can they still receive services?
That's a really good question. So if an employee is terminated, if the credit union wants to extend services, and this has happened, then that is allowed. So the employee will be able to receive services for as long as the credit union determines. So if you want to extend their 4 sessions for, say, a month or two after separation from the credit union, we'll note that, and we'll have to get their name so that if they do call, we can track that. But yes, they are, but that is completely up to the employer. And we have also had employers call and say there are impending terminations or reorganizations going on, and we're going to need to move people. So we'd like to get a sense of, will they be able to utilize services and for how long? And that was the answer, is that you let us know and we will be more than happy to do that, because they're still in their contract. So you can let us know how long you want to extend that for. Any other questions on any of these different things? Okay. How do you access us? So you can call us directly at our main number, 543-8445, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Those are normal business hours. To reach us after business hours, we have our toll-free number, and that will be activated from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. And that would be 7 days a week, basically. So on the weekends, you will get our after hours counselors who are master's level, and they will address any immediate needs. So we've had quite a few people calling in, unfortunately, with suicidal ideations. So and this would be most times in the middle of the night or late at night. And those counselors will talk to the employee that is calling, take the pertinent information. They will get them access to services if it's deemed that they need it right away, or they will provide services on the phone, and then they will contact us and we will contact that employee the next business day. We have had financial institutions call the toll-free number on a weekend after robbery, and they will call us. In those cases, they will call us directly on the weekend, and we will follow up with HR and formulate a plan. So many times we'll get a call on the weekend and we will set up for a counselor to be there to debrief Monday morning before the branch opens. And then we also have our email, which you can email. We would not recommend that you email us for an appointment, but any other information, our email is worklifehawaii.org. Any questions on accessing service? Again, for management consultations, if you choose to call in for a management consultation, you dial the main number and you just let them know you want a consultation. So either Jen or Erica are the two that answer the phones for us, and they will take your name and number and they will give it to one of the counselors to call back to address your issues. So you will get a call back within the day, if possible. If we are not able to actually talk to you at late that day, you'll at least get a call back, setting up an appointment and time that we can call back and discuss the issue. Any questions?
Just yeah, the email address looks like a website. So is that we need to go to the website to send an email?
That is a good question. Our email is, I think it's through the website, there's an email.
Okay,
Does
so
that
there's
make
like
sense?
like there's a contact form on the
Yes,
website to send
yes.
it. Okay,
Yes,
got
good
it.
question. Thank you. Oh, you asked me hard questions. Okay. Speaking of the website, here we go. So yes, you're right. I think there is a link on the website that takes you to the email. Also on the website, we have a variety of other things. We have articles, we have, you're issued a password, or we give you the password I send out the newsletters with like a cover page on the email, and that has how to access the links, but the links are on the website for the newsletters. But we have our trainings, we have biographies on our counselors, multitude of information and services that we offer on this website. We, like I had mentioned, we do have counselors on all islands, including Lanai and Molokai. So we got you covered, and Guam. We have a counselor in Guam as well. Any questions? So I have included everything that is both shared and services that are individual. So if you're unsure of how many hours are available for, say, the trainings or the CISDs, you can always ask Tracy, because we will always refer you to Tracy as well, so she can let you know what's available. And so she is also in the loop. Employee orientations or employee sessions, you can deal straight with us. Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment. The utilization report is not broken down by credit union, so we will not provide you your credit union's utilization. So the utilization report is all of the credit unions together, and that's to maintain the confidentiality of any employee that sought assistance on their own. That's just to protect their usage of EAP.
Thanks for clarifying, Tracy.
Okay, since there's no other question, I'm going to stop recording and thank everybody for